we're ready. And in the bottom left-hand side of the map, our blue Zerg player is going to be Rogue. Up against our red Protoss in the top right-hand corner of the map, ShoWTimE. A rough first loss of the day just for how quickly it happened. He will start down 0-1 in this group. Of course, this is Rogue's first match in the group. Like I say, we're going to watch a lot of Rogue in the upcoming games just to get a good feel of where he is at. Good idea of how he will be playing a day and seeing what he might be able to do. Obviously, if he just goes 4-0, then brilliant. He did lose to Zest in the Korean section of the tournament, though, in the semi-finals, so that's something to maybe keep in mind as well for us as we go through. Obviously, we'll talk about that one a little bit later, as Rogue will play Zest as his third match of the day, so in 2 best-of-3s time. Just going to see a probe popping out, is going to go over towards the gas. And otherwise, nothing else too crazy going on just yet, as hatch, gas, and spawning pool all coming into play. Pretty typical stuff across the board at the moment. Nothing to, again, get too wild about in the very first minutes. Which is okay. That's fine. Don't have to get excited all the time. PvZ especially is generally one of the very scripted matchups when it first comes to the first 2-3 minutes of the game. Some very minor changes. You know, sometimes we have a different chrono boost usage and little things like that that can be a little bit telling, but for the general gist of the game, it's kind of always the same sort of thing, right? So we will get ourselves set up. We'll see where ShoWTimE Rogue goes to. This is one which I hope can be really good. I hope can be entertaining. If it is, maybe ends up on YouTube. If so, hello YouTube. Like and subscribe. Hit the buttons. You guys know the drill. Gotta mention it though. Maybe it isn't a good series because Rogue does have that tendency to sometimes just show up and just dominate people, right? Just show up and like bang, bang, pow, pow, and then ShoWTimE's just dead, and you're like, well, that was exciting, right? That was entertaining. So yeah, we'll see what kind of Rogue is showing up today. That's the real question. Is Rogue showing up in full force, or is he going to be a little bit, worse for wear? As you see these couple lings coming through, that probe is going to start backing away a little bit. Stargate just got itself wrapped up, of course, and we are going to be seeing our Stargate taking this into an Oracle right away, so nothing too wild about that. Very standard. One thing that might be interesting, though, is that ShoWTimE does like to play a lot of triple Oracle styles, and that's something which I'm not sure the Koreans are super familiar with. So that's something that might make this very interesting, whereas obviously usually it's kind of like a Void Ray focus. So maybe we'll see triple Oracle here from ShoWTimE. Great start with the Adepts, 4 drones already going down. One of the things that helped ShoWTimE a lot in the finals of the European tournament for the Summer Championship was obviously a lot of these Adepts did a lot of damage to a laser early game. So very active with those early Adepts, always looking for some of that early damage, and so far absolutely finding some. We're on our way to a second Oracle, no Void Ray, and like I say, this is probably going to be that triple Oracle opening. So what does it mean to go triple Oracle? Well, obviously you get a little bit more dive potential with the Oracles because you can take some more damage on 1 or 2 of them and still have that one-shot potential for a while. In general, it's very good map control. You can even leave 1 Oracle at home defensively while the other 2 go out onto the map. It does mean you don't have a lot of kind of standing defense. Typically, I would say this is weaker to Queen Walks too, though not unholdable. You know, it isn't impossible to hold Queen Walks. It just is a little bit tougher overall. You got to really make sure you get that unit count up at the right time. And ShoWTimE's going straight into a Robo too, and I wouldn't even be surprised if he just went like straight into like an Immortal or 2. Just because if he's afraid of Rogue being aggressive, then that's exactly what you want. And Rogue is being aggressive, by the way. He's 41 drones, waiting for the Roadrunner to finish, and he is just going to go for a super fast attack. So ShoWTimE is doing the right thing if he gets this Robo up and he starts up an Immortal. I mean, he's getting a Forge on the way. Adding on some cannons would be amazing too, as Adept's going to try and shade their way in. There is our Roachling production. We'll see if the Adepts can pick up on this. Oh, they do see the Queens walking very far forward. They are going to commit into the natural and get a couple drones. Even if I mean, you've seen the Roaches spawn too, so I think ShoWTimE is well aware of what's going on. There goes the Immortal, now able to make this decision as an educated decision rather than just a guess. He shades back, but he's going to see the Queen still coming here, so the Adepts might still be in some trouble. They will take a turn for the moment, as we are going to be having the defense is not really set up on the third base. I think this is such an early attack from Rogue that you just give up the third base. Don't bother defending it, right? It's too early to really move out and hold that. And Rogue is already setting up a lair and drones behind it, so he'll tech out of it. You know, again, ShoWTimE was going to basically get rid of the, is going to lose his third base, but he actually does do good damage. The Oracle's counterattack for 5, 6, 7, 8 workers, 9! ShoWTimE running out of fingers to count on here. 9 workers killed is really, really good damage on the other side of the map, because now you're on a 20 worker lead, and yes, they're not mining just yet, but eventually they will get a third base, and that will be instantly saturated. And right now, Rogue isn't even operating at 2-base efficiency. So, as an Adept or 2 come down over here as well, fantastic damage being done from ShoWTimE. Giving up the third base, yes, but not losing anything while losing the third definitely helps him out a lot. And now that his army feels a lot more comfortable, he's going to be able to move over to the third base, take that, and this time will look to defend it, should Rogue be aggressive once again. So you're going to see Lingroach Ravager continuing up to the top side, just going for the push in right now. You're just going to see these Lings looking for a wraparound. Stack defense wasn't set up here just yet. Force fields, I feel like maybe could have come down a little sooner to help out. This is why I actually think the Oracles have maybe been a little bit overly aggressive, staying on the map a bit too long, but we've also got a Disruptor up. A Disruptor fires real close to the Roach Ravager, so will guarantee itself 1 kill. And honestly, there is not that much left here from Rogue, so while that was scary for ShoWTimE, Rogue is still going to be deflected in the end. An Immortal went down, yes, but the Immortal's meant to help you defend moments like this, right? You know, the Immortal is meant to save you in these kind of moments, and if it falls while having dealt enough damage, well, it definitely did, then brilliant. Yeah, the only thing I really could criticize is maybe ShoWTimE could have had the Oracles a bit more defensively by this point. I don't know if he necessarily needed to still have them out on the map. You know, it feels like he'd already done good damage. More, you know, I guess maybe if he'd caught this army coming over, they would have pulled back sooner. Again, I think that can be the only criticism for now. So you see our Oracle's turning back around up the left side. You see the charge coming up. +1 attack's halfway done. Now Aspire is going to be finishing fairly soon from Rogue. Phoenix is already on the way up because of the Aspire with ShoWTimE. Know it's about 2, so yep, the mutas aren't exactly going to be super useful either, and Rogue keeps just running into problem after problem. There's a couple of Oracles already around to the right-hand side. The Oracle's just off to the left there, then just going to be hanging out a little bit. Temple Archive's coming up, the Phoenix still coming through, and a second Stargate dropping down as well. Why not? You never know how much Rogue's going to end up committing to these Mutalisks, and if he does really commit to them, you got to make sure that you're going to be, you know, well set to defend it. So better to over-defend something like Mutalisks than to under-defend them for sure. That is exactly what we will start to see. And there are just more mutas on the way, so in this case, the double Stargate is absolutely not an over-defense. It's in fact just rather adequate for dealing with what will be continued muta production, as that's the only way in which Rogue sees this going well. Phoenix still gathering up. We do see some drones transfer into the bottom right. Mutas are coming through. And just going to see those Lings coming up as well. +1 flyer attack is about to finish. So we'll add that upgrade into play, and we'll see if these mutas can do enough. I mean, one at the point, honestly, where a Fleet Beacon and Anion Pulse Crystals would not be a bad decision, just making these Phoenix as good as possible. ShoWTimE didn't realize right away there what was going on, and so he does lose a couple Phoenix right away. Super Battery went down to start protecting them, and obviously this is coming at the cost of quite a few meters. But obviously it's always better to not be losing your Phoenix, because losing the Phoenix really does throw you into a bit of a weird place. Lots of Lings on the way up as we still just see more meters. This is actually really bad for ShoWTimE. He only has 3 Phoenix left. And they're getting picked off as they spawn, and that is his problem. He does not have a lot of other anti-air here, so he's going to get overwhelmed. This really got out of hand very quickly. These meters got to such a high number they were fighting against cannons and all sorts, and next thing you know, these meters have just run rogue the game. Wow. That, heartbreak of a game for ShoWTimE in the top right-hand side, who had such a good start last time around. And of course, in the bottom left-hand side, we do have the Red Zerg player Rogue, starting now 1-0 in this best of 3 first match of the day from him. Yeah, it's a tough one as well, though, because I really think as well, ShoWTimE obviously has 2 of the tougher matches. First, you play Zest, then you play Rogue, and it looks like they're both playing well today. I mean, it's one of those scenarios where it would be so good for ShoWTimE to win this series, alleviate some of the pressure against the European Terran players, because while ShoWTimE might be a favorite against Uthermal or a favorite against Spirit, those are not matches he wins every time. And so it does really kind of leave a lot of everything else up in the air. And if those guys, even if you beat those guys and then they pull off an upset against the Koreans, you know, it would be nice for yourself to get that started. And even just a map win, because we know how often a map win can make the difference as well, right? So, yeah, would be cool to see that. See what happens, of course, in game number 2. Probe taking a few shots of damage. Just going to be seen. Our Nexus on the way up outside the core building. Well, again, set and ready to go as our drone going to come through and chase down this probe. So probe taking a little bit of damage, and the Overlord heading to the upper right-hand side. Couple queens on the way up, and a few more lings in production as well. Just going to be seeing our probe heading out over to the center of the map now. Yeah, it is, guys. It just shows how good Rogue is, right? Like, he knows, like, when he's behind. And he knows when he's trying to, you know, pick up wins. And all that kind of stuff. He knows what he needs to do, and again, if you just let him kind of get back into games like that one, it puts him into such a good position in the series, right? Because now as the series goes on, ShoWTimE will always have this guy, oh god, I should have had game 1 in my head, and, you know, it definitely plays some mind games. It, you know, maybe shakes your confidence a little bit. It definitely makes life so much tougher. Oracle on the way up to get us started, as we do see our Overlords just getting poised to try and pick up some information as well, having a look here and there. Hey, what's up, Mark VT? How you doing? 69 freaking months. Thank you so much. Nelly at those, that big old 5-year resub. That's crazy. Thank you so much. Appreciate all the support over this time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, 2 Adepts will set out to defend the third base. We are going into the same opening, more or less, from ShoWTimE. Looks like everything is pretty much the same from my point of view, so looking pretty similar across the board. The only thing I'm wondering is, yeah, okay, we are going to see a third Oracle. I was wondering if maybe you do some kind of weird 2 Oracle setup just to maybe change it a little bit, but I think ShoWTimE is just very confident in the triple Oracle. You know, this is just his macro build. This is how he likes to play the macro game. This is like how he likes to get set up. And so this is just what he does time and time again, basically. That is his plan. That's how he, you know, he makes this work. And we're just going to be seeing these couple of adepts heading through to the center of the map. And the Oracle's wanting to maybe poke in and get a little bit of something done. We'll drop a Revelation down. Bit of creep spread already being cleaned out here. And now we're going to be having these adepts attempting to shade through. ShoWTimE did good damage initially in the last game, as well as continuing on from there. In general, it was just a pretty good showing from ShoWTimE early game. The adepts moving around. We got a couple of oracles making their way out of the main base as well. So far, so good across the board, I would say. Just good defense from Rogue, not letting ShoWTimE get too much done. Not letting him get away with a crazy amount of damage, which honestly did happen last time around. You know, there was a pretty good amount of damage dealt, so... yeah, just being pretty good in that regard. We have our Twilight Council and Robobit coming up as the follow-up to this, of course. So we're going to be seeing this tech up. Again, probably moving into Disruptors. So last game, obviously, ShoWTimE was already in a position where he was having to defend, and all of that was looking very different. This time around, he's allowed to play his build a bit more, so we're going to see that build develop more naturally through the mid-game. And as Hydra's on the way up the Robobit, attack into Disruptors would be fantastic, help a lot against those Hydras. That's what I imagine we begin to see here. He's firing on a couple of oracles that fly on by. And getting some more Hydras on the way up. Charge coming through, +1 attack coming up. All this getting ready to roll as our lings go all the way up to the top side of the map. Sentries are maybe in some trouble. These hallucinations, though, scouting through. Obviously, information is critical here for ShoWTimE. Again, a check on that Hydra Den. It's nice seeing Hydras coming out. He has a Robo Bay, but has yet to put it to use as an Immortal is still in the Robo facility, so waiting to see what exactly comes out of this, waiting to see what exactly the next step actually is going to be looking like. Kind of waiting on that right now. There's the Oracles off to the left-hand side, just having a little bit of a move around as well. The few Lings and a Roach thinking about maybe jumping in onto this, the rest of this army. Quite gonna go for it just yet, as you see our Roach Hydra Force setting up, and here we go, gonna start moving forward, gonna actually jump on the first Immortal. First Disruptor's about to be out, and this is what I was kind of thinking when he saw the Hydras. You know, Disruptors should be a priority. This kind of clump of units. I mean, Hydra Stars in general generally bring aggression, and that's an amazing stasis ward, because that's gonna block the other units from being able to get up the ramp as well. So that stasis ward goes a long way and gets a lot done. Everything gathers back into the center here. Roach Hydra Ravager gonna start pushing through. Disruptor shot to get the speed up. Only gets one Roach still, though. Obviously, when they're in that acceleration zone, those Disruptor shots become extremely scary. There's a couple of corrosive vials coming down to break force fields. The Disruptor falls low, but doesn't die just yet. There's a Disruptor shot for the ramp. We'll get just a couple Hydras in the Ravager. But it's good little chipping damage, and I like this force field too. Oh, it's just a little bit off, though. If it had been a little bit better, it might have been able to stop these units from getting up the ramp. Instead, these units are able to surge up here, and now ShoWTimE are in some trouble. Disruptors are hiding away in the natural, waiting for their cooldowns to become available once again. A few Zelds getting to the front. That Disruptor shot is good for a couple Ravagers, and that is going to be Rogue typing the GG, as ShoWTimE will tie this series up 1-1 in the best of 3. And as in the bottom left-hand side, our blue Zerg player is going to be Rogue. This time, obviously an attack that just really flopped on 60 drones, and when he didn't break through, he knew it was over. Give it ShoWTimE a point on the board, and we go into game 3 on Blackburn. ShoWTimE's now bottom right side of the map, of course, as well, so just getting him into the game set up and ready to see what the heck's going to go down. Alright. So, I see a probe having a little bit of a journey around right now, seeing what's up. Nothing too crazy just yet. So I guess give me a second as I just need to double check something on the other screen quick. Yeah, not much to shout about just yet. What I do question mostly on this map is, do we see that triple oracle again, or do we maybe go into a Void Ray style this time around? These replays going to be shared later, the replays of these games. Subscribers will get access to these replays. These do not go out publicly, only to subscribers or people who are on Patreon of $5 or more. But yeah, they will go out on to subscribers, basically. Just, you know, obviously if we release these replays publicly, some players get a little bit less inclined to play in the tournaments. So just keep them to the bare minimum amount of people by, you know, making you have to pay, basically. It's a good little compromise. Obviously gives the subs a little benefit as well. Couple probes running around. We just got Stargate coming up. Battling speed on the way here on Blackburn. Nothing really too, nothing really too overly crazy just yet. If ShoWTimE does the same Oracle setup, my question becomes, what aggression does Rogue bring to the table this time around? But he's going to go for Void Ray, so that is our switch up. Obviously, with a Void Ray setup, you're obviously going to have a very different follow-up here. Generally double Stargate Void, and we'll see exactly how that will go. Healings get turned away, just going to be seeing the Oracle coming out. And the Warp Gate going to be finishing up in a few moments' time. Again, plenty of drones on the way out, too. Just going to see that one Zergling rolling around the upper right-hand side as well. It's just getting that rolling. And, yeah, this is going to come down into the third base, have a little peek. +1 air weapon starts. I think we know where this goes. Second Stargate, Void Ray production into Sky Toss. We have been here before, my friends. So we have seen this one before, for sure. I mean, it's super popular right now. It's the super common standard way to play, so it is the absolute norm. That Oracle has a little bit of a flight around. Just trying to see what is happening. Our additional extractors all finishing up, and our drones are going to be finishing too. Just going to see that Oracle dropping a Revelation, then escaping out of there. And otherwise, across the board, I mean, we've got a... We've just got kind of Rogue setting up with the lab. I mean, we could still maybe Queen Walk here if you wanted to. I mean, he's building a lot of drones, so it would be a very late Queen Walk. I think he's going to feign a Queen Walk, so he's going to want ShoWTimE to stop building static defense, believing. And ShoWTimE just says, no, I'm going to go check your natural, and he sees gases coming up, and I think that's just going to tell him this is not going to really be a Queen Walk. The Queen's turn around. But just that sort of idea of trying to fake something out right there. There's a couple of voids. We'll hold strong. There's the Robo Facility too, to obviously aid you into the Robo Bay. Helps a lot when it comes to those defenses. We saw the Disruptors last time around were definitely a help. Single Signal just having a little bit of a chill. Revelation will drop down on the natural and just going to be seeing that Oracle escaping away as the Void Rays continue up. Again, so far so good, really. As obviously it just double checks, sees the Robo, knows about all the Void Rays, right? So Rogue just getting a final confirmation, just double checking everything is more or less as it usually is. And post that, and after that, we are already on our way to an infestation pit. So Rogue thinking about the future. Obviously, one of the cool things about this map is you do get that gold base, and that's going to be true on both sides. So you do get that little bit of accelerated economy. That especially helps some of the more aggressive builds. And I say aggressive builds, obviously you'll be off 4 bases, but you can still be more aggressive on 4 bases versus trying to, play a super long macro game. See what exactly Rogue plays into. For now, it looks like he's going to be going Hive, and if he's going Hive, I feel like we're probably just going to see him setting up for the longer game. Wow, he just goes Neural Parasite right away. Okay. So is he going to go for like Neural Parasite, Microbial Shroud? Is that the game plan here? Seems a little bit crazy, actually. 6 Infestors already starting up, so they start up really early. And then the Carrier's already coming through as well. I mean, yeah, ShoWTimE sees a lot of what's going on as well, right? So when you look at ShoWTimE's vision, you think about what he's been able to see. Well, he's seen the infestation pit. He saw it upgrading too, so he has a good idea that upgrades are coming out and that Rogue is typically setting up into later game units. And so if that's what Rogue is going to do, you don't need to mass up voids. This is your chance to get some carriers on the map without being punished for it. So take that chance. Run away with that opportunity. Take it and run. Get some carriers out, and then if he starts going, into some void, corruptors or so after, you can start adding on voids again if you would like to. So I'll give him choices. The few things are going to come through and just going to pick away at a set of rocks. Obviously, opening up the map here will only aid Rogue for the most part, giving him more counterattack pathways, potential surrounds and stuff. The air army doesn't care about the rocks and so on, right? Because, well, it's an air army. It just flies over them. And at some point, maybe you have some ground support, but typically the rocks going down is going to aid the Zerg probably more than it will aid the Rhodos. Quadra's picking away at a couple Ovies. Best is coming over and just going to try and get set up. Gonna go all the way though. And obviously the creep spread is one thing that has not really been pushed back by ShoWTimE at all either, so has not done that just yet, as we have got the queens, the infestors all sitting in the center. And of course they have just so much freedom with all that. But of course, ShoWTimE doesn't really care. He's got his 4 bases. He's got a 5th base upper right he can take eventually too. So he has those options. As you do see, our Ling is running through the top. Great Spire coming up. Alongside all the upgrades as well, of course. Carrier Void going to move up top side and is actually going to find this little bit of Ling Bane. So just clearing out this base, but actually going to catch the run-by potential. Always a nice little something, being able to deal with that. All the Banelings have to cancel right away. And yeah, we are just watching an upgrade tab. Oh, well, it feels like an upgrade tab. The production tab of upgrades. Even the Spire getting upgraded to Greater Spire. Everything is just setting up for late game, guys. And again, for ShoWTimE, he is maxed. Does he want to go for a little bit of a push here? Maybe. You can see a Neural going off and catching an Archon. Obviously, the Neurals are scary to kind of fight against right here. You got to be a little bit cautious about those. Just see our Interceptors getting involved. There's so many Infestors up. We just have 14 Infestors already. Fungal's going to go down. I feel like ShoWTimE is a little bit like, how am I actually meant to fight this? Some Neurals will start going off. Can you get rid of the Infestors with the Neurals off? It's just a massive Queens as well, though. Well, I feel as though, so far, we have to call this a bit of a success from Rogue. It feels like ShoWTimE is the one losing out on a group of units, while Rogue is staying fairly okay. I think. I don't really know. That was such a I mean, it's just a mass of infestors and queens. It's a little wild. Resources lost is a little bit favorable to ShoWTimE. I mean, Rogue didn't lose any infestors, though. Only lost a couple of queens. That was the thing. I thought maybe you can target down a couple of the infestors that are neuraling, but obviously he did not find the chance to target those down at all, so that didn't happen. Well, Zealots in this main base won't last very long either, as another neural parasite going off on an immortal. Talk about just mass neuraling. I mean, that is actually just Rogue's game plan here. The neural parasite pretty much everything. He drops a fungal there. Nice revelations. The infestors are revealed while burrowed, and that would make a pretty big difference as time passes by at the moment. Just gives you the chance to really see those, just in case you lose out on detection. There's only one observer up, right? So if that gets caught in a fungal or goes down to a queen or whatever, just nice to have the Oracle revelate. And of course, need to refresh that revelation a lot more regularly nowadays. The Zealots are getting caught in the top side. I say getting caught, maybe catching Lings. They're going to be able to continue their crusade to the upper left-hand corner of the map, and at the same time, you got to deal with this pressure through the center as Rogue tries to bring his army back down to deal with this. Is ShoWTimE's army just too good overall? I mean, resources lost still heavily in ShoWTimE's favor, and while he does have a good economy, Rogue's economy is slightly better, but not that much. So, if you actually look at the income graph, you feel like Rogue is like a couple bad trades away from actually starting to spiral out of control. He actually cannot deal with these Zealots because he has no ground units apart from queens. About to have some ultras, and they will help a lot simply for the fact they'll actually be able to run around the map and respond to those Zealots. That's what they're going to start doing. The Broodlords morphing in. 17 workers went down. ShoWTimE, realizing the weakness to these Zealots, is just going to line up another attack, but Rogue is already here. He saw it coming in. Overlord saw it coming. So this time, the Zealots do get intercepted, but a successful interception at that. As you're just going to be seeing everything is still collecting down on the bottom. The Broodlords will finish up. Just going to be seeing this army moving into the bottom side a little bit. Ultra Bane going to start running into the upper right. Just going to go after a few of these probes. A lot of probes going down already. I mean, it's a nice counterattack. The 5th base is in some trouble, of course, there. Just going to be seeing this big push once again. Well, let's see what goes down. I mean, Microbial Shrouds dropping immediately, so looking to provide coverage. Storms in the Shrouds, though, and that's one of the weaknesses of Microbial Shroud. Units have to stack in it, so Storms can come down exactly where these units are standing for the removed damage. I mean, feedback's going down as well on pretty much anything and everything. Some Neurals going off, but I do believe we have got enough from ShoWTimE to win this out, but he actually doesn't have Interceptors left over. Oh, so ShoWTimE is going to be the one starting to get pushed back and actually losing some units toward the end here. He still has a bit of a ground force, a couple of Mauls and an Archon. He's trying to get these carriers away as Queens will get the couple down. Oh, Zealots are showing up, though. I do not think there's actually a lot to really properly deal with, like Zealots here. It's Queens and Infestors mostly. A couple Broodlords. The Zealots are going crazy. The Archons will not quite be enough, and ShoWTimE does have to back it up, and Abduct comes through to grab the carrier and to pull it back. And what the heck was that? ShoWTimE actually felt like he had a good start, and I actually didn't mind the re-engage with the Zealots, because I did see the potential in that, but obviously didn't quite work out and wasn't able to push through, and now maybe he would have been actually, in hindsight, better off having pulled back, rebuilt a bit, and then gone again. So that's a difficult decision to make in a game that is honestly not going like any game I've seen before, so very hard to judge where you are at or how things are playing at the moment, as a whole chunk of new Infestors are already in production, popping out as well to join this maxed out army Rogue. I mean, ShoWTime's remaxed, but ShoWTimE didn't remax on any air units. I wonder if he feels, though, against this amount of Infestors, the ground army is just better, because he doesn't have to worry about Neurals and stuff, and because the Infestors almost are more useful against the air units than anything else. So maybe he really believes in his ability to overwhelm on the ground. I can understand that. I can see it. I could believe in that being the situation in the case here. Absolutely. So that's coming through and picking away at a bit of creep, picking away at a couple of spore crawlers. You get a revelation down on the rest of this army as well. We do just have our army of Rogue pushing through. We do have the few Broodlings coming in as well. The Ultras, Queens, and so on. All getting set as we are just going to be having a little feedback going down. I mean, big army. I mean, big choke points as well for these Ultras to get through. Ground army should do okay against the Ultras. How many Immortals are there? Is there only the one? There's two. Okay, obviously more Immortals would go a long way. Archons are okay against this as well. So you have a couple Neurals going off on some of the Archons. Of course, that's one of the problems, I guess, in this Protoss army now. You don't have much range, so you can't punish the Infestors getting the Neurals. There's not really a good way to target those down. And to free the units out of the Neural as a supply-blocked Rogue is actually unable to rebuild because he's been losing so many Overseers in this fight that he's remained supply-blocked. Now the Ultras are melting and Rogue supply is plummeting, but he's got money to rebuild with. He just needs to decide what the hell he's going to rebuild. He's got 20 lava, and he ain't doing anything at all. He's just focusing on this fight. Now 7 Ultras are on the way. The masses of Neurals, though, means that he can win the fight even with less units because he just has the Protoss units. But they're now back in control of ShoWTimE. The last few Queens are going down. A Zealot and some Stalkers were chasing down some Infestors. I feel like some of those are lucky to get away. ShoWTimE was still busy dealing with this army back at home, and if he wasn't, he might have been able to actually properly focus on chasing those Infestors, which were revelated. They were visible underground. Rogue comes out lower on in supply as ShoWTimE looking to maybe get himself the 2-1 victory in this best of 3. That would not be a good start to the day for Rogue, but it would be a fantastic bounce back for ShoWTimE. He got 2-0'd by Zest already in the first match of the day. If you just tuned in, that's what you missed so far. And I bet you're glad you tuned in now, because this Game 3 is absolutely redonkulous. I mean, we gotta make up some new words or something to describe this. There's just the massive fact. I mean, the fights are just impossible to call. There's Neurals dropping down everywhere. There's, you know, Microbial Shrouds. It just gets crazy. This Archon count is going to be very difficult to deal with if these Zealots can keep the units safe from the Infestors. Seems to be the case so far. Time Walk going down. ShoWTimE going to be cautious about pushing in. We are maxed out on either side once again. You can see that resource loss-wise, it's dead even. But ShoWTimE's actually had a bit of better eco. Some of his run-bys have really just continued to do so well throughout the game. They have kept putting the pressure on, and they have kept hitting Rogue where it hurts the most. And so Rogue really has ended up in some difficult spots. And we settled down a little bit with the Infestor Ultra Force going back home. I mean, we're going to both max out again. But now ShoWTimE's got the larger economy. He's the one with the bank, and Rogue is going to have to find a very, very good engagement to make sure that ShoWTimE doesn't just get to outbuild him. Cancel on the top side base, obviously nice to make sure that doesn't become too much of an issue. We might actually end up on a fight top side. Now ShoWTimE, he does have most of his army here. I like that he's got a few more Immortals as well. Obviously that will go just a long, long way when it comes to fighting against the Ultralisks. Those Ultralisks have definitely been creating problems though so far. Some High Templar Storms go off initially. Just going to be seeing the Ultras coming in for a little bit of that surround. Oh, well, that's 24 probes just going down right away as again the Archons and a couple of Immortals going to be there to help push the Ultras out of here. Losing 24 probes actually might be the eco loss for ShoWTimE that makes a difference. He also loses that bottom side base, so I mean, the eco actually does seem to be a genuine problem all of a sudden. I was just talking about how ShoWTimE's economy was that little bit better, but now maybe not. And it is a case of, obviously, these Ultras are very mobile units, so they can run by to different bases very quickly, very easily. They can create a lot more issues than I think a lot of people give the Ultras credit for, and if anything, the Ultras are actually helping Rogue out more than anything else is at the moment. Stalker Archon coming through, Voidor helping to chase those couple of Ultras away, and just going to be seeing everything moving through the bottom side of the map. So far, so good still as our extra spines coming up, our Mortals producing. I mean, we've got ourselves basically a reset. Now, one of the interesting things about Blackburn is you've got that that final base to think about. You can see Rogue is tempted to take that 12 o'clock, and that's one thing that ShoWTimE has to contest quite regularly, because you can't just let that come up. By the way, I do love the disruptors too, because the disruptors can be that thing which can just help hit multiple infestors with one shot, especially infestors that are immobilized because they're stuck there neural parasiting something. So maybe the disruptors are a little bit of that answer that we've been looking for somewhere along the way here. Maybe that is the case. It very well may be, actually. It may be. The revelation comes down. 3 workers haven't dropped so far, and it's going to be still pressing forward a little bit. Alright, Neural Parasite gets a grab up to the top side. Some Infestors going to get picked off. Disruptor Shot fires doesn't do much. Massive fungals on this army to begin with, but there are the Disruptors that actually do cancel a bunch of the Neurals, who now Neuraled a Disruptor that does not have a shot available, I believe, as it's just a few Immortals fighting these Ultras off. The Broodlords are going to create a bigger issue than anything else, though. There isn't actually an answer to Broodlords at the moment for ShoWTimE, and that's the problem he's going to run into more than anything else. Not actually having a way to fight that is... I mean, what the hell is that fight? A Neuraled Archon and now a Neuraled Immortal set up to defend the Zealot run by. Oh my god, what's going on in this game? Another Neural comes down, the fleet of Overseers shows up. The Immortal's obviously going to help fight. I mean, a lot of drones going down that top side. I mean, you still got to get an answer for these Broodlords. I'm genuinely unsure what ShoWTimE's going to do about those. Like, maybe just masses of Stalkers? I think that's his only real bet, right? Just to build Stalkers and just hope he gets enough. It's... The thing is, we're getting to the point where it's Broodlords without actually any proper support. ShoWTimE is going to lose out this top side. ShoWTimE has more workers. He needs to buy time to get those workers to mine and to create an economy where it will make a difference, though. What's resources lost like after all of this? Still pretty even, so rogue mining from an additional base is an issue. But again, overall, his mining has been slowed enough. I mean, he's not mining from down here either, so in a way, it's equal bases still, and maybe that's why it is so close. Well, Mothership Cloaking isn't going to do a lot against this amount of Overseers, let me tell you that much. More Broods being made. If we can get to that amount of Broodlords where they can just overwhelm the Stalkers no matter what, ShoWTimE's in trouble, because that's just his game plan. But does he need to fight the Broodlords? Maybe not, because he's got so many Stalkers. It's a very mobile army. He could run around the Broodlords for a while and just play that game of cat and mouse where the Broodlords will never really be able to catch up, never be where they need to be, which can obviously be very frustrating to play as the Zerg. And then maybe the Broodlords end up fully committing somewhere, but you've already taken a bunch of damage, and maybe that's where it gets interesting. ShoWTimE, just another different army that he's using in this game. It has been a fascinating set of set of armies that he's had to use at different points of this. It has been absolutely wild. $18 more Zerglings just all coming through. We are going to be seeing our Stalkers be able to pick through the rocks on the bottom side. I mean, if you can take this base, this would be good too. Obviously, Broods are powerful here because they can sit like here and fire onto this base, but the Broods need to be down here in the first place, right? And right now, they're focused on the top side of the map, and they are very slow, so it actually isn't a problem just yet, at least. Double changeling shot down by cannons, just a cute moment or something while we continue this game as Infestors and Broods and Lings make their way southward bound. Well, Broods are going to show up on this base. I mean, ShoWTimE, do you have enough to fight this yet? I mean, his army supply is up, but again, his army quality is, I would say, down. Stalkers, again, dangerously close to those Broodlords. Broods, for the moment, are not going to get jumped on. Mothership on the top side maybe wants to set up a recall counterattack. And that might just force Rogue to back away, respecting it. A Tempest or two came out. They will go a long way against Broods, and that's why ShoWTimE isn't looking to jump on this opportunity to fight. Because he knows the Tempests are going to go well for him. Kills this base top side as finally some Banes crash into the Zealots. I wonder if the Banes will be a good enough something to kind of deter the Stalkers from kind of blinking in underneath those Broodlords. So yeah, Ultras and our Banes still set up in the center. ShoWTimE's economy obviously did take some hits when those Broodlords struck the bottom side. Down to only 38 probes. But I think every Tempest that you build is just a wonderful choice. And I love that we've got a High Templar. A little bit of Storm action will also only help. The little things that ShoWTimE slowly added in over time is definitely looking good. As it looks like Rogue feels like he needs to push. I think he knows that given time, ShoWTimE's getting a proper answer to this army. And a proper answer to this army really isn't something he can then deal with again, because he knows his economy is too low to make that, next tech switch along. Well, he's going to get rid of this base. ShoWTimE will refuse to fight. I'm surprised the Tempests aren't already getting some shots off. There they go, as obviously the Banes are going to roll through, but they actually roll through the Time Warp. Another beautiful Time Warp is going to slow the Banes again. There's nothing actually killing them, though, as now we need to get rid of these couple of Ultras. The Tempests doing what they can during all of this. The Corruptors will busy themselves with the Mothership. So the Tempests have been free to fight against the Broodlords, which are now going to try and turn tail and run. Losing the Revelation, loses a bit of vision, but the Observer's there. The Stalkers will blink underneath, and here goes ShoWTimE to clean up the Broodlords. There's a couple more in the back that maybe ShoWTimE didn't see right away, as we are going to see the Immortals getting rid of the Ultralisk. We get rid of the last Broodlords, and Rogue will not have an army left. He will GG out of the 27.5-minute game against ShoWTimE. And what a freaking game number 3. Wow. We talked about, obviously, games 1 and 2 being that kind of aggressive style, but game 3 was anything but.